Welcome to another edition of the NFL Preview Show. I'm Chandler Mack, and alongside me is Danny Kelly. Now, we're just going to dive right into Week 10 in the NFC, starting in Green Bay, where the Green Bay Packers take on the lonely Detroit Lions. Now, the Green Bay Packers have lost their two previous games. So, Danny, what do you see happening in this game?
Well, although the Packers have lost their last two games, they were against two of the better teams in the NFL. Against the Denver Broncos, who were 7-1, and the Carolina Panthers, who are at 8-0. So definitely not bad losses by any means. But I do think the Packers will, they're playing at home this weekend at Lambeau Field. They're playing the Detroit Lions, who've been struggling all season. I think they'll ultimately win this game pretty handily, probably by about 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Detroit, Matthew Stafford, he's ranked second in the NFL in interceptions behind Andrew Luck. Not only that, their defense, which was pretty strong for them in past years, they're ranked 24th in the league right now in total yards given up per game. And the Green Bay Packers, I honestly feel like they need this game. They've lost they lost their two previous games to, like you said, good opponents. But the fact that they lost, I think that they know that they got to bounce back. And Detroit has struggled in Green Bay in previous years, and I think that they're going to continue their struggles against Green Bay at Lambeau Field this week. I'm taking the Packers. All right, our next game will be in Tampa Bay, where the Dallas Cowboys will be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Cowboys, they've been struggling in the past 6 weeks, losing their last 6 games without quarterback Tony Romo. So, what do you think, Danny? Do you think their struggles will continue this week?
I think they'll play a really good game this week. I mean, Matt Castle's still a quarterback for them, so obviously he's not Tony Romo, but I think he has a potential to get a win, get his first win of the season. But I actually think the Buccaneers will win this game. It'll be a close game, I think, but I think the Buccaneers will edge them out. They're playing at home. Jameis Winston's playing pretty decently for his rookie season. I think that the Buccaneers will squeak out a win in Tampa.
Yeah, Jameis Winston has played great this year, honestly, especially in the past few weeks. He actually has a better quarterback rating than Cam Newton and Peyton Manning this season, which I found that pretty shocking. So, yeah, I got to agree with you. I think Jameis Winston will lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Doug Martin will get back going in the running game, and I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will force the Cowboys to continue their losing streak this week. All right, our last game that we're going to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Seattle to play the Seahawks. This is a big division game in the NFC West that could kind of shape what's going to transpire for the rest of the season in that division. So, Danny, what do you think is going to happen in this game?
Well, this is the Sunday Night Football game this week. It's a huge stage, and they're going to be playing in Seattle. That stadium gets pretty loud, so the Cardinals better be ready for that game. But I ultimately see the Cardinals winning this game. The Cardinals have been playing phenomenal football all season long. I think the Seahawks have had their struggles this season. I think they'll continue to struggle tonight against the Cardinals and their loaded defense.
All right. Well, I actually got to disagree with you on that one. I think the Seattle Seahawks will ultimately get the win in this game. The only real reason that I think they're going to get the win is the fact that they're playing in Seattle, a place that I think they only lost about 3 times in the last 4 seasons or whatever. And I think Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, and those guys on offense will ultimately get it going. And they'll give Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, and the rest of that Arizona Cardinals defense a little bit of trouble this week. And, yeah, I think that Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, the rest of those guys on defense will stop Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer's kind of been struggling in the past few weeks, and I think that will continue against Seattle on Sunday. But we will see what will happen this week, and that kind of wraps things up for us. So we'll just kick it over to D'Angelo and Loretto, who will kick things off in the AFC for you.
Thanks, guys. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. To this past Buffalo Bills game versus the New York Jets, not because of the actual game, but because of those uniforms.
Yeah, this is the first NFL Color Rush game of the season. The Buffalo Bills unveiled their all-red uniforms, much as the New York Jets unveiled their all-green uniforms, much similar to their alternate uniforms.
Yeah, those uniforms were real sweet. I really like those all-red joints by the Bills. Our next topic of discussion, though, is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns.
As we all know, Big Ben is out again for 3 to 4 weeks with a foot injury, but Landry Jones can step up and just get the job done. Antonio Brown had 284 yards, so I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to look great against the Cleveland Browns.
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could look good, but this is Johnny Manziel's 3rd start, and honestly, I believe Johnny Manziel should be the starting quarterback of this team because his first start, he did win it. Last week, of course, he couldn't get the job done, but this week, I feel like he's going to be more confident in that starting role. He's going to be more consistent. I feel like he can pull out the win against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Especially in that second half of that game last week, he actually did pretty good. There was some ups and downs, and although he did not make a turnover last week.
This next game is technically an NFC game since it's taking place in New York. The Giants are taking on the New England Patriots, but we feel like this game is one that we have to talk about as a rivalry has built up between Eli Manning and Tom Brady.
Exactly, and we all know in recent years, the New England Patriots have lost to the New York Giants twice in the Super Bowl, especially during that anticipated undefeated season a couple of years ago. So you know there's going to be a lot of bad blood on the field.
Bad blood is the correct terminology. The Patriots this season are also unbeaten, and people feel like this is a game to watch because they think the Giants may be the team to put that blemish on their record, put that one in the L column. But my opinion, I feel like the Patriots, they're too motivated. They got Gronk, they got Tom. That's the best duo in the league. Tom Brady is really motivated by the Deflategate and everything that's thrown at him, and he's taking all the haters and making them motivators.
You know, I'm going to have to go against you, man. You know, OBJ is having a good year. Eli Manning is having a good year as well. And who knows, this may be another chance for a team to beat an undefeated team this year. As we know, the Indianapolis Colts lost to the Denver Broncos. So we'll see what Eli Manning can do against this New England defense.
Oh, well, I think you meant to say the Broncos lost to the Colts. Yeah, but it's all good. But that wraps everything up for me. I'm Loretto Campbell.
I'm D'Angelo Stevenson.
And we're going to send it off to Dalton Aho.
Thanks, guys. Now, I know the fantasy football playoffs are approaching, and if your team's not doing so hot, listen up because I can fix that for you. The first segment I want to go into is my locks of the week. And I'm going to start out with running back DeMarco Murray. He's playing Miami, and they have the 29th ranked rushing defense. And last week, Carlos Williams and LaShawn McCoy both had over 100 yards, so look for DeMarco Murray to have a field day. And the next player I want to talk about is Matthew Stafford. Green Bay gives up the 20th most points to quarterbacks, and I feel like this game is going to be a shootout and there's going to be a lot of points scored. And staying in this game, I also like Randall Cobb to have a big week, because last week he had 4 receptions for 99 yards against the stingy Panthers defense, so look for him to have a big game as well. The next segment I want to move on to is my dislikes of the week. The first player I'm going to start off with is Mike Evans. I know last week he had 106 yards receiving, but he also dropped 6 passes, so his stat line could have been even bigger. He's playing Dallas this week, though, and lately Dallas has been one of the harder teams on wide receivers this year, and they've jumped their rankings all the way up to the 6th best pass defense. And then the next player I want to talk about is Lamar Miller. I know he's been blowing up, and it's going to be hard to put him on your bench, but I would advise you to do that this week because Philadelphia is the 4th best run defense in the league, and he'll be lucky to have 100 yards. And then the next player I want to talk about is Carson Palmer. I know he's a top 5 quarterback playing fantasy usually, but he's playing the Legion of Boom this week. They have the 3rd best secondary, and they're only getting hotter as time keeps going, and it's in Seattle. So avoid him at all costs if you have a better backup you can play. The next segment I want to talk about is my sleepers. Now these are players that aren't going to be that high owned that you could pick up off the waiver wire, and hopefully they could produce for you. The first one I want to talk about is the Tampa Bay's defense versus Dallas. Now this is a big gamble, but Matt Castle has been known to be turnover prone throughout his career, so look for Tampa Bay to get a pick 6, and if they do that, then they're going to have a good fantasy day. The next player I want to talk about is Brandon LaFell. As of late, Tom Brady's been targeting him a lot. He had 9 targets last game, and he had 107 yards receiving. And look for him to continue that against the Giants, who have been very, very lenient on receivers this year. And next, I'm going to go into my FanDuel picks for the week. And the first player I'm going to talk about is Blake Bortles. He's playing Baltimore, and they have the 31st worst secondary. And at only 7,800, he's still a bargain because he's cheap, because he's under a top 10 as far as how much he cost. Like he's less than Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and some of the big names. And what you can do is you can stack him with Allen Robinson, because Allen Robinson had over 100 yards against Darrelle Revis. Just imagine what he's going to do to this depleted secondary. And then next I'm going to move on to Doug Martin. I know last week he fumbled and had a terrible game and probably cost you a lot of fantasy matchups, but you got to roll him again this week because he's playing Dallas. Dallas has been terrible against the run this year, and he's only 6,700, which is, I think it's his lowest price of all season. Well, that wraps things up for us. On behalf of Capital City Sports, I'm Dalton Aho. We'll see you next week.